And welcome everybody to our Tuesday morning Tuesday morning Gun Channels coaching session. We've got Clover joining us from Texas. Thanks for jumping in.
Hey, good to be here.
I've got to flip my thing over. It's not a sci-fi chat anymore, but I was in match chat last night, so I always flip it over to Hong Kong Fooey for that. So anyhow, we do this chat on Tuesday mornings. The goal is to give people who are creating content an outlet and give us a place to kind of focus some of our coaching offers that we put out there. So if anybody's interested in having some kind of one-on-one coaching or ask questions to us, Clover and I, privately or exclusively ask questions about your project or something, let us know and we can make arrangements to give you a link and have you join us after this.
Yep.
Something we've been doing now for a while, and we're happy. We learn from it. We're happy to see people succeed, and it's win-win. But that being said, we get together on Tuesdays. We started doing this, I don't know, sometime around now last year, and just been doing it. So anyway, last couple weeks or last week I guess, we had questions coming in from people that were joining us live, and we used some of those last questions for topics this week and next week. This week, the topic is work smart, rest hard, managing and preventing burnout. Played a little bit with the robot AI to give us kind of a place to start. We never really used the robots for the whole thing, but it says in this empowering video, we'll dive deep into the crucial topic of burnout, its causes, its effects, and most importantly, how to deal with it and avoid it. Discover potential strategies, proven techniques, and expert advice to help you conquer burnout and maintain a healthy work-life balance. From mastering self-care to prioritizing your well-being, we're going to equip you with the tools you need to break the cycle of exhaustion and unleash your inner resilience. Don't let burnout hold you back. Watch now and take control of your mental, emotional, and physical well-being. With that being said, I'll let Clover say hey and get us started on this topic.
Yeah.
So, hey, join us.
Yeah. We've had a few people over the last few weeks that have talked about burnout. It's a real thing. You hear, consistency, consistency, consistency. You hear that a lot in the creator sphere, and if you um, think about it, I mean, especially if you're a creator out there and you're seeing growth, or maybe you're just trying to get something, kick started off or whatever. You're devoting every waking hour to it and whatever. There's a lot of different factors that can go into, creating that situation for burnout, and very important because, as the robot there, the AI stated, burnout comes in a lot of different forms. It may just not be a physical or a mental burnout, but as that alluded to, may stifle creativity as well. So important that we get that, just like your 6 or 8 hours sleep a night or whatever it might be, important that you get that break every now and then.
So if anybody who's joining us live, we'll say hey to everybody here in a bit. But if you've got a direction or a take on this that you'd like us to work on, let us know. But I'm thinking some of the things that first come to mind are understanding your project ahead of time. So factoring in or
Hmm.
planning in some times for rest or for breaks, just like you would with
Oh
any
yeah.
task. And then knowing your resources, like being able to learn from the mistakes of others or learn from the life experiences of others and having realistic expectations. So, in other
Right.
words, assuming that you can just accomplish a goal because you want to is great, but it's childlike. When you are really accomplishing a goal, you're going to take a look at others who've attempted it, see
Right.
where they've had problems, and either be aware of that or ideally incorporate that into your plan ahead of time so hey, at 3 months, even if I don't feel like it, I'm going to take a break. And
Yep.
at 6 months, I'm going to be taking a break or whatever. But
Yep.
that's some of my points, I think, initially is just be aware, have realistic expectations, and then plan for these stress breaks
Yep.
or
And
stress
and
relieving breaks, I guess.
and intentional, right? And we can talk about a few strategies. I'm sure we'll get into it, over the course of the hour here. But I'm sure we can talk about some of the strategies to sort of build in. You kind of look at it um, like you're working for an employer, and you have what do they call it? Family days or whatever. That's usually a funeral, somebody's passed away. You can take, right. You have sick days, and then you have personal days, right? And so you have to look at it from a perspective, in my opinion. Kind of going in to things that there are going to be situations to where you're going to have to step away. You're going to have to walk away, right? And it may be because you decide to do it, and then it may be because situations, force you into it, right? And the problem I think I see is that people don't weigh um, they don't weigh those different types of breaks the way that they should. Um, let's say that you're on a schedule and you're doing good, and something comes up. God forbid it's a death in the family or an illness, right? I mean, we just come out of a pandemic, so that's entirely possible. And um, something puts you down for a few days, maybe a week, whatever it might be. That can add to those types of situations. And if you don't handle your breaks properly, um, that can actually create a situation to where it's adding to the burnout, because it's you didn't really make that decision. You did make that decision, but you were kind of forced into making that decision, right? And so you had to take that break for this, that, or the other reason. And then now you feel better, or family stuff's taken care of. You come back into it, and you feel behind. You feel like, oh man, I'll never get caught up, what have you. And that can actually add to burnout in the next cycle actually increasing. So, um, yeah, I agree with what G's saying there. You've got to understand that those things are going to happen, um, and sort of plan things out accordingly for the unexpected, and then have your deliberate breaks that are completely separate from that. Would be like your personal time, right? You tell your boss, hey, I'm taking a personal day next week. I'm going fishing, or whatever, right? Um, and plan out those deliberate breaks, and those deliberate breaks is your time for rest and relaxation, and get back in the right mindset and everything else.
I think something that came to mind as you were saying that was, if you're in school, you don't expect to have a college degree or the consequences of a college degree when you're in junior high, even though what the you got your eye on the goal, what the end of the path is,
Mhm.
that you've got junior high, high school, college that you need to go through, that you're going to get layers, or you're going to lay down layers and layers of learning. That there's prerequisites to learn the next step and the next step, because it's all planned out. People have done it. The path is there, and it's fairly clear. So I was thinking of it that way, that sometimes we have it all laid out for us, or thought out, or people have done it enough times that it's fairly obvious. We don't even think about it. But that's the same kind of situation. I think, kind of like what you're saying. If you're planning for it, if you incorporate it into your whole project, then it's a little easier. But if you don't know about the things, if you're not aware of it, you're trying to do it alone, or the first time person's doing something, you may not, have foresight or something, a way to know what the future is. But you can know that everything else, that you need times just to break, so you can anticipate or incorporate things that apply to
Right.
other realms into whatever you're planning. Just anticipating that you might need some times of stress. In worst
Yeah.
case scenarios, you're good to go. But then, instead of taking it as a stress break or a motivational break, you take that planned gap, or that planned break, to just recalculate, or regroup, or reassess. If you don't need it for rest, you can take that time to just pause and assess that you're on the right path, or that the path is still the right direction, or whatever the
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you something else since we're talking about, is length of the break, right? I mean, in the context of, the analogy I used with an employer type situation, we're talking about days or weeks or whatever, right? Um, but even hours can help, even little hours along the way, and that gets more into the management of burnout and stuff. And one of the things that it's been really, really, I'm not going to lie, we're all connected to our devices and our phones and everything else. And I'm not going to lie, it was really, really hard for me to do. But once I got accustomed to how nice and peaceful and everything it was, um, I enjoy it. And now it's really easy to do. And that is, you I go to town to for groceries. I go to the hardware store. I go out to eat, right? Unless I'm using my phone for a specific task related to that, right? In other words, I'm looking up something on that store website while I'm in there, right? Like, oh, where's this located in the store, right? Or, I'm ordering on the app at the restaurant that I'm eating at, right? Something directly related, to the task, or, texting my wife's going to meet me there, right? A text back and forth with her to, hey, I'm here, I'm in the corner booth or whatever, right? Um, my phone is screen down, upside down, you know. Um, Sometimes it's still in my pocket, even if I haven't used it for some reason or other directly related. But I've got to where I've done that because I look around and I notice it now, right? I look around and we're sitting there and we're eating, and I've got I can look at my food, I can enjoy everything a little better. I'm watching other people, and we were in a restaurant a few weeks back, and the room we in, I don't know how many tables were in there, but there had to have been probably 30 to 40 other people easily in that little section of the restaurant. And I noticed every single person but me had their head in their phone. Now, I'm not saying that some of them didn't have their head in the phone for a legit reason, right? Um, but it was pretty obvious some of them were playing games. It's pretty obvious some of them were scrolling Instagrams or TikToks or whatever, right? It was pretty obvious just by the eye movement and how focused they were in on things. Um, but it was really a waking up point for me, and I'm like, man, I'm glad I broke that cycle. And so those are little things you can do. Even if you're going to the Mickey D's, right, to grab something to eat or whatever, put away the phone, put it away. I mean, have your emergency contacts there where it'll vibrate or it'll ring if one of those people, try to get a hold of you. Obviously use it to order and do the things that you need to do as far as that particular task goes. But put it away. Don't fixate on it. Don't enjoy the meal, enjoy the location, enjoy looking out the window at whatever scenery, watching cars pass by, watching other people, being a student of humanity. Um, that sort of thing. And so there's little micro breaks I think you can take that are super important because there it's depriving yourself of that dopamine factor. And social media and YouTube, I mean, there are people that watch. I was I'm gonna go ahead and throw them under the bus. I don't care. But I jumped into Yankees the other night. Yankees, what, several 100,000 subscribers, and he was watching his real-time subscriber count and complaining about a five subscriber fluctuation when he's hundreds of thousands of subscribers. And I'm thinking, why are you even worried about that? Like, quit. And we know that's a thing. We know the likes and the thumbs up and the glory and the recognition you get online. It gives that dopamine hit, right? And so that's a little subtle way you can wean yourself off of it, and then in a way make that a mini break in and of itself. You don't have to say, "Hey, I'm going to take a whole day off." It's just like, "Hey, I'm going to go into town. I've got some grocery shopping to do. I'm going to go in instead of running through the drive-through at McDonald's because, like I said, I've spent a bunch of money, and McDonald's pays me. That's why I keep mentioning them. But instead of running through the drive-through, coming home and getting back on the laptop and editing videos, maybe you go get your groceries and maybe you go through and maybe you go in and order. Maybe you order in a line, right? Don't even use the phone to order. Of course, you get better deals that way. But maybe you get in a line and you order and you sit down at a table and again watch people and look out the window and don't scarf your food. Sit there. Of course, you do have to scarf the fries at McDonald's because they suck if they're cold. But enjoy that little bit of a time block and unplug. I guess is what I'm saying when you do it. Unplugging can be a major thing. And if it's done in small increments, minutes, hours, whatever, it's not going to affect the overall productiveness of your projects.
All right, so we've got people out there saying, "Hey, we'll say hey to everybody here." I'm opening up the robot so that we can have some robot assistance if necessary. But we didn't really start with this show with a complete script from the robots, so we're winging it
And
to
that's
some
good
extent.
every now and then. Every now and then we need to do
Oh
that
yeah,
without the robots.
the robots don't really know a grand plan. They offer interesting insight, and it's a perspective that's fresh, I guess, but it's not necessarily applicable or directly worthwhile for us. So it's yeah, it's not necessary for us to use the robots every week or anything. But I guess I was just going to add in there that, as you're saying, I just didn't want to interrupt you, but when you or before, I guess, when you were talking about if something unexpected happens and you have to take a break from your project. So you've got a project that requires 5 steps, you're on step 3, something happens and, your momentum or whatever is mixed up. So, or your pace is altered because now you have a real life situation that is going to take time. Maybe you break your leg, whatever it is, like something comes up that is going to take precedence or priority over whatever you had planned. Um, I was just going to emphasize or put in there because the way you kind of mentioned it, like take that as an opportunity to take a break or something. I think is kind of the way you were approaching it. But I just wanted to add, like, definitely still incorporate extra time also. Like, don't take your mandatory time off or mandatory necessary breaks from your project as I'm only going to take so many breaks from my project and that was it because you're still the human behind the project, either motivating or doing it, and you risk the burnout that comes from running a machine without oil. Not so much your mindset or your drive, your ambition, but your ability. You're just going to grind some gears. So taking some time in addition to that unexpected time is probably still I don't say mandatory, but necessary, or probably a good idea at least. All right, so if there's nothing with that, then I did start starring some stuff, but I was just going to go through and say hey to the snob, first one to show up tonight, or this morning, I guess. Thanks for joining us. Unapologetically armed out there from Missouri. I guess snob is in Oklahoma, we assume. Gear report, is he in Georgia? She fires, I believe, also in Georgia.
She
Chris,
fires is Florida, I believe, and Jeff is Carolinas, North Carolina.
oh, then I have no idea. I'm just going to assume you guys are going to have to move to Georgia now, unfortunately, because I already said it. So sorry about that. And then Chris, let's say Ohio. I was going to say Indiana, but I want to make him move also. And I think that's everybody that's out there.
Well,
So if anybody else is out there, say hey.
Chris has got the state right there in his avatar, so he makes it easy.
I know it was really difficult to not make him move to Indiana, but I did. So we got a couple of things. Start here. Unapologetically armed says that end of legislative session puts an abrupt end to posting testimonies. So pulling clips from the Missouri legislator to create shorts or videos will give her something to work on during the session's downtime. I'll let you rip on that one or dig into that one.
Yeah, I mean that's still work. That's not a break, but
Well, but
yes,
it's being able to anticipate, I can't do this,
yeah, but
so
it's
it's
still
going to
planning.
change into that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's still kind of planning things out, which is good. And I think that she said later on down there that she does take some breaks, road trips with the puppy or whatever. So, um,
road trip with the Hound Dog
But
is
yeah,
definitely
and having things you can shift gears. That ties into sort of Jeff with Gear Report out there, and I know you got some stuff starred from him, and we'll get to his. But go ahead and get this one from Chris since he did super chat.
yeah. Thanks, Chris, for joining us. He says you got to book out of here, but he's slammed, but he'll catch the replay, and he thanks us for doing it. So thank you. Every once in a while, I give Clover a couple of bucks. So I'm taking all that money, but eventually Clover will get a couple of bucks from it.
Well, I did get all kind of patches the other day, but yeah, with Jeff, and we can read his, but if you know Gear Report deals with a lot of different things: vehicles, guitars, um, camping, hiking, as well as firearms. And so, similar situation to Unapologetically Armed, that Jeff has some different gears, no pun intended, with Gear Report out there. Some gears that you can switch into a kind of a different gear and run with it. Um, I do the same in a way, because I've got multiple channels and kind of multiple projects. This is one of them, the channel that I'm on now, GunTuber Academy. Um, but I will say that switching into a different channel is not necessarily the type of break that's going to save you from burnout. So just keep that in mind. If you're doing the exact same thing, you're just doing it with a slightly different details, right? Then you could still get burnout from doing it overall. So the ability to unplug, to really move in and do something. And I think that to be able to curb burnout, we have to get away from the major things. And as content creators, our major things is being plugged in. Now I know there's people that don't hike and they don't whatever, but maybe you get into some actual gardening and you don't start a channel that has to do with gardening, or maybe you plan some kind of an event with some time with family, and have a cookout, right? Or something of that nature, something that literally pulls you away from that technology that we're so dependent upon as content creators. But that certainly can, switching gears into your creative mode into a different avenue. It certainly can help. I don't want to say prevent, but it can make burnout come a little slower. I don't know how to even say that. It can delay burnout.
No, it's not. You're making it sound like burnout is an eventual is an eventuality. Is that
I
the right
think
word?
it is. I think it is. I think a lot of people don't realize that they're
I
suffering
think
from
you
burnout.
can plan for burnout, and you can just be as enthusiastic. I mean, I didn't. I don't. I can. I've been in projects. I've been on like doing things before where there was never burnout. Like there can't be burnout. Like let's say you're, I don't know, working on your kid's birthday party, and it's going to be a big special birthday party, and it's an amazing really big task. You're not going to get burned out on that. You might physically get exhausted and stuff, but I mean, I'm just saying there's not burnout on every goal, on every thing. I know sometimes if there's the so I'm gonna get. I was gonna say there's 5 things you got to do to get to your goal, right? 5 things to finish your project, and one of them is lame. Like one of them is just a bear. Let's say it's taxes or something lame or some other the worst boring, like un the unrewarded part of the whole thing, but it's a necessary part. And if you don't do it, maybe it's
But
just editing, like whatever it is. It's the drudgery of it. I think what one of the things that from Jeff's comment there, and kind of from what you were saying, maybe you're kind of bouncing around this, or else maybe it is different than your mindset. But um, I definitely also have lots of projects. Sometimes you have to have multiple projects. Like if you're going to do gun stuff, Second Amendment stuff, that's awesome. I commend you for it. Value your voice and do it. Get better at it, right? Or have fun with it. All that stuff. But then if you also want to make money with it, I'm going to say, well, then start another channel and do something to make money, because you're not going to make money on the gun side. And if you insist on attempting that, you will find burnout. You're going to approach burnout because it's such a difficult and a task that's not a known path. But if you want to sell flashlights or I don't know, like cooking pans or recipes for keto diets or something, that's in demand and people are paying you and they're falling all over themselves to pay attention to that stuff. So having another project, you got those 5 things to do, and on a project that's super successful and the other 4 parts are either bringing in success or money or both, or just satisfaction from the work, and that one element is a little less interesting, but because the other sides are so much more awesome, then that the worst part of it seems like nothing. And having another project to compare yours to, like the one that needs to get done, but eating the vegetables or whatever, like the stuff that you have to do, but you're not looking forward to it. Sometimes just seeing that it can be done so much easier and more fun with a different project. Also, batching stuff. So if you got to do taxes, well, if you're doing taxes anyway, and you've got this fun, successful project that you're paying taxes because you can, and then you got this other project that it's just like sucking your time and effort all year, and then you got to pay taxes on top of it. That can be the thing that isn't just um, burnout, but like literally extinguishes your flame. Any passion you have is now gone because it's a struggle to begin with, and then you left your worst part. And I usually do leave the worst part to the end, taxes, and then you got to figure out a way to pay these taxes on top of everything else. So if you've got a successful project that you're doing, and the taxes for that are not pleasant, but they're not a punishment, they're not punitive, then that can be batching or having multiple things to do can alleviate. Maybe that's the word we're looking for. Like you're not going to get rid of burnout, but I don't think it's an eventuality either. I think you can be aware of it, and I gotta hope that people today that are starting out and seeing the experiences of all the people that either accidentally traveled the journey they're looking at or intentionally did and had failures and successes along the way. They say you know, seeing what others have done, prepares you for your attempt. Like the more and more people that are paying attention ahead of time, they're gonna I don't want to say schedule out burnout, but they're at least going to be aware of the potential and see it coming and not be blindsided by it. Maybe, hopefully. And it's not that new people, just anybody actually paying attention before they start a project, realizing that it's a negative, knows that it's out there. Maybe you can start seeing it coming and do something about it ahead of time. Maybe that's getting into a different direction. But as far as having different projects, anything else on that one?
Well, no, but I wanted to disagree on the making money as like a gun tuber or whatever. Because I don't want, he's like, you can't make money. And I ain't for a second
Oh,
going to
you're
tell
right. Let me
anybody out there
qualify
that
that.
you
You can't
can't
make
make
money on
money.
YouTube. I want to say on YouTube. Sorry.
Now, well, you can actually make money on YouTube. There are creators that are doing it. The thing is when you start talking about the revenue stream issue, it's like, what are you doing, right? What strategies are you employing? What formulas are you trying? It's going to be different for everybody. So, is it difficult? Yes, yes, I would say it's difficult, but you certainly can. And yes, there are other niches, other avenues, other mechanisms, right? But if those other mechanisms, look at it this way, especially if you're frustrated over the chase of the revenue part, look at it this way. Um, if those other ones are easy for you to do, right? It's easy for you to go over here and make money. And I'm not saying go over there and make the money. It's not what I'm saying. I mean, take it anywhere you can get it. But if it's easy for you to do, then how many other people is it easy for them to do? And how long is that going to last? Right? Or how much are you actually going to get? How big of a piece of that pie are you actually going to get if it's easy? Right. So just understand that it's all subjective. It's not impossible by any stretch of the imagination, but it's subjective depending on you, your work ethics, your strategies, the formulas that you're using for revenue generation and stuff like that. That's all I wanted to interject. I don't like being negative about things because there are some people that are out there and they're
No, I'm not
crushing
being
it. They're
negative. I
crushing it
feel
pretty
like,
heavy. It can happen.
yeah, but just because it can happen doesn't mean that it's an obtainable goal for typical people. It's not an inevitable thing, and it's something that's an unusual thing. So you're fighting the current. So I hear you. And I qualify it with on the YouTube getting paid
Yeah.
by YouTube because they don't like paying for certain topics, and they include us with violence for some reason.
All right.
But anyhow, you're right. And without getting into all of that, because I think what happens is if the people that would ask this question for the YouTube side are just doing YouTube. People that
Yes.
are doing
True.
YouTube and a whole bunch of other stuff aren't going to get burnt out on YouTube because they know it's just a
right.
It
They
is what it is,
understand.
right? You don't
Yeah, they
expect
well,
more out of your tool and get frustrated because your tool can't provide more.
yeah, they've got a bigger sample size or more
Yeah.
experience. Yeah, exactly. And I wasn't looking to change the
Yeah, no
subject. I
worries.
just wanted to push that out there.
So then Jeff followed up with he rarely maintains momentum long enough to experience real burnout. And I mentioned that's again when you've got either multiple projects that you're jumping back and forth through or just maintaining or keeping track of. But he's also got other things in his world. So it's taking a stop for a luxury vacation or buying another yacht or buying an island someplace to sail his yacht to. Those take time away from his projects, and some of that can be planned, but when that stuff is unplanned, that can, well, I don't want to say derail momentum, because some people don't probably ever get momentum. And I think when we're talking about burnout, right, what perspective are you looking at it? Like burnout, like I've been doing this too long, or I spent too many hours on this, or is it burnout like my strategy, my long-term strategy is flawed and I've spent years or hours or whatever on this, or not just years but weeks, long time on this project, and it's the wrong direction, and now I'm burnt out because it seems like I put so much work into this. So when we're talking burnout, are we talking like temporary burnout, are we talking like exhaustive, I'm not doing this project anymore burnout, right? And that's where I guess it probably depends on the person, the state of mind of the person who's coming at this, right? When you're thinking of this topic, were you thinking temporary burnout or were you thinking like permanent burnout? Or I guess as we've been addressing this, are you thinking of one or the other?
Um, uh, Not really. I mean,
Okay. So in other words,
most
the answers are kind of the same for either.
most burnout is temporary. It may be longer term, but it's not finite.
Oh, is
Um,
there a different term for when people say I'm done or I can't do this anymore?
yeah, I mean, they have they're not suffering from burnout. They have burned out at that point. Like, I think there's a difference between, hey, I'm suffering from burnout and it's done, right? I think
Okay.
there's a
And that's fine. I
distinction
mean,
there.
I don't think there's a
But there are
definite
people that will, but
dictionary
there's even
definition.
people that think that they're completely burned out that are not. I've seen people that have, gone away or whatever for a year or 2 or 6 months, and, when they do, they're like, "I'm done," and the next thing you know, they're back, and sometimes they're back stronger than others, sometimes they're back and it's a completely different vibe, and, whatever it may be. So sometimes you may think you're burned out, um, and I think that's an important distinguishment to make, is recognizing burnout versus frustration. Now I think we're more apt to get frustrated if we're getting burned out. Don't get me wrong, but I think oftentimes, and with YouTube monetization and stuff, I mean, we just talked about. I mean, that's a huge deal, right? Policies and dealing with that. Um, but we've got to be able to identify that. Whoa, okay, this is just a frustration. This is not me being burned out. So I've got to figure out this particular little issue, and then I'll be fine.
I've got Chris's up on the screen right now. It just came in. It says also depends if your project, your content is your full time or your part time job or a hobby. And that's a good point. Burnout or stress is amplified probably when it's your full time gig. When it's a part time gig, there's a bit of that grass is greener. And then, man, if this thing pans out like the best case scenario and I can quit the other thing, there's that going on in your head. And then the hobby side is, oh, my hobby could have made money, but instead it's just a flood, a wash, or maybe it cost me a little bit like every other hobby in the world. That's a different set of, I don't know what to call that, like anxiety, I guess. How much the burnout, how the intensity of the burnout, maybe. Like, oh, it's my hobby didn't pan out the way I wanted versus, oh, my part time job didn't work out versus now I can't pay the bills.
Right. Yeah. Hobby, I view it as you're not really concerned with the future. You're not concerned necessarily with goal setting. So you're not really in a in either one of a positive, and I got a mosquito that's eating me up here. I got to kill him eventually. Um, you're not really you're not in either a positive or a negative mindset. It's more of like a neutral mindset. And then part time, I think that quite often those that are part time are in a really positive mindset. And then that can change when you get into full time, that the stress can become such that it can be a more negative environment. So I guess what I'm saying is it goes from zero to positive to negative in that, as you grow, as you decide that things change. And yeah, I mean, the more stress factors you're having on you, the more quickly that burnout is going to happen. Um, yeah, learning to deal with stress is definitely something that,
Well, that's
again,
interesting.
yeah, learning to deal with the stress on things, and that's part of the reason I said one of the things earlier. I said one of the things is just being able, from time to time, and at least small increments, being able just to unplug. Like, I don't care about this. I'm focusing on this over here. Maybe I'm not going to focus on anything at all. I'm going to focus on sitting at this table and eating my Big Mac and French fries. Um, but unplugging can eliminate some of that. And then, are we stressed? Here's the other thing. Like, are we stressed because content creation can put stress not just on ourselves, but those around us as well, and create frustration and create headaches, right? Family members, or are you, if it's a hobby, then you don't really care. If it's part time, um, it starts to become an issue to where it could creep over into family time or whatever the case may be, and especially part time, right? And then you get into full time, and then it really can get, that's like it's having a job. So obviously, a job takes you away from your family an awful lot, and so in most cases, anyway, and so that increases external stress factors, which can, hasten, I guess, the phenomenon of burnout.
All right, I distracted myself, and you made a good point there that was a little bit tangent or it went in a different direction than, but I liked it, and I can't remember what it was, but got a lot of those. So we'll. Oh, I was gonna also just pause here for a station break, and since you mentioned that mosquito running around, I was just over at my friend's house, and he's got a little lantern looking thing with a light in it, and it's made by thermocell, and it's got batteries, and then it's also got this like, oh, it's got a pressurized tube in there, like a little butane looking thing, and then in the center of the light, and then it also has a little pad. And I'm thinking, I don't know how it all works, but there's the unit you have to buy. I think it's like 20 bucks, let's say 30 bucks. Then there's the batteries. It's like four batteries. Then there's this bottle of goop that's under pressure. It looks like a little tiny propane tank or something, and it's
Yeah.
clear. So,
Yeah.
right. And then there's a pad. So there's three components if you count batteries that you're buying that are renewable or like, have to be replenished. And he puts this out on his backyard porch, and he's got a pond there, a water feature, right? And that's going to attract mosquitoes in Arizona at least. So he says that thing keeps the bugs away. Have you ever used anything like that? I don't want to spend 30 bucks and be obligated to buy goop and stuff if it's pointless.
I've yet to
Oh,
honestly
yes.
find. Yes, I have used the thermocell stuff, and I've yet to find anything that works. I'm convinced that Texas mosquitoes are different than any other mosquito. We've got like
Well,
the
you
uh,
haven't been to
s-
Minnesota, have you? But yeah,
the
I hear you.
super. We got the
Everybody's got different
Superman.
mosquitoes. Yeah.
They're like immune to everything. Apparently,
Well,
I can literally.
you
It's
got
it's
the Gulf of
hilarious.
Mexico right there, so you must have more
Well,
bigger
maybe that's
mosquitoes.
what it is. Maybe I'm buying the English thermocells and not the Spanish thermocells. That could be the issue. But
Oh shit, are there different kinds? Because that no, that would make sense. Maybe one kind of mosquito likes a different smell more than another.
that's what I'm saying. Maybe it needs to
Yeah.
smell like tacos instead of hamburgers. I don't know. But anyway, um, but no, I've actually gotten. We've tried the plants that supposedly keep them away. Yeah, the mosquitoes will light on those plants. I've got the citronella bracelets, and
Yeah, I've never liked that.
I
Never.
can put those on my cameras and around my cameras and other things when I'm filming, and the mosquitoes would literally light on the citronella band. So like
Yeah.
they don't care about that. That does not work around
Yeah, I've never seen those work either. But the things that are smell gross and they're like a punk, they're just like a thing that
here.
burns. Those work, but they smell gross, and I don't like smelling chemicals, smoke. You know what I'm saying? I'd rather not smell any smoke or breathe
Yeah,
any smoke.
yeah,
But I definitely want to smell like chemical or breathe chemical smoke. Plus, I grew up with those things, and I mean, I don't know if they work because of the smell or if they work because it's just a little bit of smoke, and things probably don't want to be around smoke either. They're not stupid; they don't want us to be smoking
yeah,
in
yeah.
or just
Well,
breathing electric.
Jeff would know. I would definitely, and he's chiming in on the thermocell. I would definitely.
Yeah, he
Uh,
says it's a
he's got more experience
nebulizer
for
that
sure.
it vaporizes the repellent and it causes a bubble unless it's windy. So essentially, it puts crap in the air. That's the other thing. I don't care if it doesn't smell. I don't know if I want to be breathing
Yeah.
insect poison all the time.
Well, I haven't done it yet. I've got a few. I've got a few 5-gallon buckets, and I can't even remember what it is, but there's these discs that you can put in water, and they got them for you use them in like little ponds, koi ponds, and things like that. Um, but I heard a thing that says you break the life cycle, and that will help. And the way that you do that is first
Yeah,
of all
kill the water.
yeah, but first of all, what you do, because the average mosquito, the life cycle is only like 4 weeks or something. But they said what you do is first of all get rid of any standing water you have. So if you don't have a water feature, that's easy to do. So for me, it's just making sure I go around and dump things out that have caught water
Well,
and
what
things like
happens
that.
here is it's the
But what
dew
they
in the
do,
morning on the grass. It's impossible.
yeah, and what they say you do, well, you create an optimal environment. So what they say you do is you fill up um you fill up a bucket with a little bit of water. Take your 5-gallon bucket and just put, 8 or 10 inches of water or something in it, and then throw one of these in there. And what happens
So,
is
want to what in there? What are
that
you trying?
one of the little
Mhm.
discs. There's a little disc that they make that
Okay,
kills
okay.
the mosquito larva. Is what it is.
Yeah, we
And
throw those
so,
in our coolers. I think I know
yeah,
what
yeah,
you're
yeah.
talking about.
And so what they say they do is you put buckets out around your property with a little bit of water, and that's an optimal environment. Unlike the dew, right? That's an actual basically pond or lake for them. And so in a dark bucket, they said typically is the darker the bucket, the color anyway, the darker because mosquitoes are drawn to dark things. The darker the color of the bucket, the better. Fill it up with some water, put them in there. The mosquitoes will go there, they'll lay their eggs, and the eggs will never hatch. Like,
Okay,
right?
that's smart.
And
Yeah.
so you kill the life cycle of what you're doing is you're interrupting the life cycle of those mosquitoes, and it's
Uh-huh.
not going to get rid of all of them. They said, but it will
Oh
cut
no,
them
I
down
like that because
drastically.
a lot of the traps are like, do CO2, make something that makes
Yeah.
CO2, get them in here, and it's like, oh man, then I'm buying whatever the hell makes CO2 all the time, or it's a gross DIY thing that falls apart and you got dead mosquitoes everywhere.
Yeah, and these
So
little donuts, the little things you put in the water, and again, I can't remember what they,
they
but
dissolve. They're
A
nothing, right?
Google,
They're like clay or something, like
yeah, a
paper
Google search
mache.
will give them to you, but they're not expensive. A package of like 20 is like $10 or something. So,
Yeah, yeah, exactly. We put them in our coolers here,
um,
but that's brilliant because that puts a trap out for the ones that are trying to lay eggs, which is like you're saying, it kills their cycle. Because yeah, and then you're not trying to keep an attractive carbon dioxide trap going for the live ones. You're just getting the ones that have already bit everybody with their blood
yeah,
and are just being suckers and laying their eggs in dead water. No, that's a good idea. I'm gonna try that one.
yep,
But
yep,
roll
yep.
call solved it. Just ban the mosquitoes, and there'd be no more violence. So I'm just going to get some
Yeah,
small
I
no
like it.
mosquito zones
Yeah,
and
that'll
make a
work.
mosquito free
That
zone
that will
section.
work.
No
Yep.
one needs that many stingers or
Yeah, I
whatever.
think if you add 10 years in prison and a $10,000 fine to that, I think it would go a long way too.
And I don't like short mosquito stickers either. That's too short. That they can hide them or whatever they're going to do. And they also, if they have some kind of silencers for their wings, all those things are horrible. Anyway, we're going back to work here. So
Let's do it.
Cheap Fires had one from. We're not doing too bad, although. Oh yeah, it's about 30 minutes ago, but we're still doing all right for we'll go about 90 minutes. If anybody wants to join us off air, this would be a good time to contact us.
You know,
Yeah, I guess you could say something in the chat if you want, or on the Instagrams. I'm gonna open up my Instagrams over here, so if
yeah,
somebody wants
definitely
to
know.
do
Let us
that.
know out there in the chat. That way we can be looking. But Instagram, DM, PMs, emails, any of that will.
Well, not emails, because I'm trying to keep it in one source. So if you don't got the IM, then it's going to be tough. But
Well, they can email me if they want.
okay, so email Clover or Instagram me. Otherwise, we'll hit some of these and let's see. So Chief Fires had said tools matter when you're burned out from trying to be creative. I use a tool I can refer to my idea. Like I use a tool that I can refer to of my previously from. Okay, so use a tool and then refer to ideas that she's previously jotted down. Um, I guess I inadvertently do that all the time, so that must be a good strategy, or maybe it's what's the word? But I definitely do that myself. I don't know if I do it intentionally. I do it intentionally for sure, but sometimes I have to do it unintentionally. If tools switch or somebody's asking me questions about a piece of software and I go check it out, I'm trying out a new piece of software. So sometimes it's not necessarily something I'm doing and I because I want to, but I end up trying out software all the time. I'm sure Clover's the same way. So I never thought about it though. I guess I never had the chance to think about it. That if you're not feeling like you're making gain, if you're not feeling like you're making any uh, movement in a direction, then we have the internet here. You don't have to keep using Illustrator or Photoshop. Switch it up. Use the other one. See what the if the different tools give you a different outlook on it or a different ability. If you're using a videos thing, try using one of these phone apps or vice versa. If you're getting burned out on using little phone apps with your thumb, see how amazing an internet or a real software package can be. Or I guess the other way around too. You get stuck on how complicated these software packages are and trying to accomplish something. You go use a phone and you figure out you can do things that are amazing by fiddling with your wiggling your thumb. It's annoying to some extent. You don't get exactly what you want, but you get 90% of what you were trying to do for hours on a computer, and sometimes that can be creative or inspirational, but that's the same as uh, preventing burnout, right? Or is it? What do you think? Tools as a outlet or a alternative to burnout?
I don't know. Maybe. Um, my problem with anything of that nature, and again, this goes to me, and everybody may be different in the way they deal with things or whatever. But a lot of my burnout is tech related, and I want away from it. So having an app on my phone puts me on my phone. I'm absorbing that blue light. There's the eye movement. I just can't. And some people have games, and they'll go and they'll play the games, and they'll do different things, and I understand that. But yeah, I don't. Yeah, I try to stay away from um, tech as much as I can if I'm not using it for a specific purpose. And for me, like entertainment, killing time, that sort of thing, to me is not a purpose. And again, my that's my personal thing.
Right on. Then again, we'll say hey to Chris. Thanks for the super chat. Uh, I don't do very many live things anymore, but when I do, we'll attempt to say thanks to the super chats right now. Chris is the only super chat in quite a while, so thanks for that. Defense Dad said, I've been re energized lately and looking forward to making content. Hanging out with the other creators recently has sort of jump started him.
Can have that
Real
effect.
life.
That's one reason community and being a part of community is important. Oftentimes, and in the greater creator sphere, I hear, hey, what are some of the first things, and some of the first things you can do as a creator or an aspiring creator, let's say, is get involved in your niche community, the greater niche community. Because there's so many. there's so many different things there. You can draw inspiration and ideas from things other people are doing. There is exactly what we're doing now. The support structure element style of it or whatever. It's a very important aspect that there's a lot of channels, and that's not to say you can't succeed without that, because there are certainly channels, there are certainly creators that have and continue to do that. But it definitely makes the journey a lot better. And sometimes you may think in the context of burnout, sometimes you may think that you're burning out, but a little direction, a little help. Again, it gets into what I said earlier was confusing frustration with burnout. Maybe you're not getting burned out, maybe you're just frustrated. And if you have that support mechanism, if you have some folks you can talk with and maybe enlighten you to where you kind of understand those frustrations a little better, then you realize, oh crap, I've got a direction now to go. I wasn't burned out after all. I was just frustrated with the circumstances or the situations that was going on.
Yeah, right on. I really like that last part there. That was really where I was where I was planning on taking it today. If we wouldn't have had any other input or whatever, that's the direction I would have gone. That burnout, I think, comes from. I like to use the analogy of treading water. If you're in a body of water and you need to stay afloat and ideally get to shore, if that's your goal, then where do you get to shore? The worst case scenario, you'd go away from shore and you'd be spending a lot of effort and energy
Yeah.
going away from your direction. But when you think of the shore, it's almost never just a straight line. And honestly, even if it is a straight line because of math or whatever, you could go to the closest place, or you could do the wrong vector and be doing twice as much work to get to shore. Or if
Right.
there's a bay or something, you don't know unless you have a intimate awareness of the whole thing from three dimensions when
Yep.
you're treading water.
Yep.
So that's where I think a lot of us are treading water, and either we've decided, especially with Second Amendment, well, gun stuff for sure, and then Second Amendment subset of the gun stuff
Mhm.
is treading water without a lot of help. So if you do gun stuff and you want to get set in the water, you're going to have a current working against you. Like if you want to review batteries and handheld fans and you put yourself in the water, the current is helping you. There's nothing except for the fact that there's a lot of people doing that. Uh,
Competition, right.
yeah, except
Yeah.
for competition and lack of interest, maybe not many people don't care about the fans, but
And that
nobody's
can be
out there
just as
saying we
bad.
don't want fans on the internet. Fans are bad, right? So when you do guns, you're automatically like fighting a current. And when you do Second Amendment stuff, which is the people that we're offering this free advice and the urging people to join us after for free counseling and coaching
Mhm.
on their projects, because we value your voice as much as you do, or maybe more, because we've seen a lot of them come and go, and we know that there's things that we can do to just not even give you a hand as much as let you see a couple of options so that you can choose a path that's
Right.
most direct. But essentially, yeah, when you're treading water and you know that you're fighting a current to begin with, if you do nothing, you're out at sea, even if you just tread water. So now you're
Right.
fighting the current to some extent, but now you got to get to shore, and it's going to be a fight. You want it to be directly to where you want to go. And if you're kind of wandering around, if your project is like, yeah, I'm going to fart around, I'm going to do this, I'm going to see where the current takes me. Well, first, it's going to take you away from revenue. Like, there's nothing on the internet that's just paying gun people. That's false. Like, it can do it, but you got to be good at fighting current and there's a lot of other stuff, and it can be done. But it's certainly not something that just happens. Now, if you want to review, name a dumb thing, toothpaste, you're going to find places that you accidentally start just creating revenue that you don't even know where it came from, kind of things.
Right.
And that's just a different game. So anyway, I guess I'm saying that's one of the things that you keep in mind. I guess this all started from, if you're going to be aimlessly wandering around, you got a lot of forces working against you in this scenario. So either listen to people who are on shore trying to give you some direction, like, hey, this is probably the shortest path over to here, unless you're trying to get south of here, then go that way. Or maybe you're trying to do something else, and we'll give you as much help as we can from our experiences or from our perspective here.
Right.
But aside from that, make a decision and start going, right? And however you make your determination on the direction you're going to go, but figure out a direction, and okay, it looks like it's that far, And it means, I've been going this rate for this long. I'm going to need to take a break. I'll take the break, somewhere here. And that can be tough when you're in the water and you're looking at shore. But in reality, nobody's in the water looking at shore. I was using this as an analogy. Your goal is far away. Put some realistic steps to that goal. The thing I can accomplish this year, the thing I can accomplish this week, the thing I can accomplish before I need this many more resources. How do I get to these resources that I'm going to need? And knowing that, okay, first got to collect all this so that I can get to that, and that'll open the door to this, and then I'm on my way. Well, now you're not going to get burnt out because you're not on your way, because you know that there's 4 steps before you get there. Now you can get burnt out because, man, I thought it was going to take 4 steps, and this first step is a lot harder than I thought. But what happens is, like anything, I'm just giving you the advice that anybody can after you've been doing things for a while. Half the time it takes you forever to open up a door. You figure out it was just because you were putting something in your pocket that you weren't supposed to, and it wasn't that it was difficult. You just hadn't experienced it before. You got that experience, you move on. The next 3 doors are simple as hell because no one's ever even gotten that far before. Everybody quit at that first door. So just because a hurdle or a condition is difficult, maybe the taxes are too frustrating or the time commitment is too tough, you figure out a way to eliminate, like I was saying, figure out a phone app that takes all the editing away from you and you can do this stuff in a third of the time. Well, now it's a whole different story. So I'm getting into tangents again, but I think that um, I'll stop there. We're at about an hour. Anything else you want to add to seeing others do their process?
Yeah, I mean, when we were talking about the community, talking about the perspectives, and I think that's one thing I benefit from is I'm getting, and you to an extent, you follow some other people. I know Sheepfires out there does too, that are getting some perspectives from outside of the firearms related niche, and so I don't think it's necessarily important for those that are 100% whatever 100% gun tubers to spend a lot of time doing that. And the reason is the same reason we have this little show every Tuesday is because most of that stuff is not really specific enough um, to what we're doing as gun tubers. There's entirely too much nuance with what we're doing. And so those tactics and strategies and thoughts a lot of times have to be tweaked to where they're specific to us. It's like taking a chocolate cake recipe and making it, compatible with a diabetic or something, right? It has to be tweaked. May look the same, but it may still be a chocolate cake, but it's got to be that way. And so, yeah, perspectives are what I'm getting at is perspectives are really important because they give you that view of the directions you could possibly go from various different angles. Um, and so, because you may look like you're running up against a wall, or like you said, you're treading water or whatever. And in reality, I mean, you may have to get outside the firearm space and talk with somebody to understand that. Hey, wait, hold on. There's a crack in that wall, right, or a gap or there's a narrow channel if you're treading water that you can get through to get to the other side of where you're trying to go, or whatever the case may be. Or maybe there's a tunnel underneath the water you have to dive down, right? Um, all of that is a possibility. So the more you can expand your resources from a perspective, if you will, the better off you're going to be, I think, at mitigating at least burnout.
We're going through and star and stuff here. I think the next one queued up is
Yeah, let's blast through the comments because we're at the top of the hour.
how much time you got? You want to end it here or you want to go to 90?
Let's blast through the comments at least. Let's get
Okay.
uh, there's a
So
few out
Fires
there.
had said tools matter, and we were talking about that one a bit
Yeah.
before Defense Dad, and then she followed up with, I've been using ChatGPT to help me with, or to help with video that answers top questions. What are the top reasons for buying trucks over cars, for example? Yeah, I think that there's so many ways that tech can, uh, well, it's hard to say save time. It can eliminate some tasks, right? But you have to learn how to work the tool, and then you have to keep up with it. So there's there's more to it than that. But yeah, you can certainly adjust where you're wasting or putting your time. I don't say wasting, but I think of it wasting sometimes when you're unnecessarily putting time into something that, if you don't prioritize the value of the creation, you can push a button and have it created, like a thumbnail, for example. If you're not like, thumbnails matter, but you're not super worried about becoming a thumbnail expert, you can get some tools that you just kind of use the cookie cutter thumbnails, and they are professional-ish looking, and they push of a button or click of a button type of stuff. I've been using ChatGPT all the time. I don't know, Clover, you got any different opinion on it at this point?
Yeah, I play around with it for a few different things, whether it's context in the video or title generation or something along that lines.
Jeff says I run into daily burnout some days and just done all I can do that day.
Yep, can be.
I don't know. I haven't gotten to that in a while, but I can understand that for sure.
So
I get that more
to
physically. Like,
that's what I was
okay,
going to
I'm
say.
done. I'm going inside.
Yep, to that point, and something that we haven't mentioned up until now. We've talked more about the mental aspect of burnout, but there's absolutely physical aspect. I mean, maybe you ran all day, you haven't eaten properly, you haven't drank enough, whatever the case. And I'm not talking about liquor, getting drunk, but not enough nourishment or whatever going on. Um, and I mean, I that can be a real problem for sure. So mind and body both can suffer from burnout. Unapologetically armed. It's got a good one with what we were talking about with the
Oh,
difference
I'm muted.
between burnout and frustration there.
Oh, let me hit. I was just going to say, Chris had this one before we were talked about it, but he said, "Is this your full time job, part time job, or hobby?" It would depend on if what it is. What do you think about that for a topic for a future show?
Yeah. Yeah, I think that probably would be a good one. We can get that on the schedule.
Okay, so you were saying this one. Go ahead.
Yeah, my burnout isn't channel work induced. It's the frustration from all the advocacy work and zero gains in the leg. That's why I appreciate your idea of using other clips to keep advocating anyway. So yeah, that's you making the point that burnout is often, I think, confused with frustration. Um, and so with the frustration there of not making any gains is the same as we was talking about before from your perspective. But from somebody else's perspective, maybe you are making gains, right? And so that's why knowing the difference is important between the two. And then if it is frustration, getting some perspective on that. And I think that's what she's alluding to with, some of the advice that's been given and stuff out there.
I can totally see where the people that have boots on the ground, real life, the frustration of taking time and
Yeah.
the costs involved with attending either a testimony session or meeting, having appointments and meeting representatives with the intent of introducing yourself and offering insight on the different issues that matter to us. Second Amendment advocates like Ladies in the DC Project and Susan out there are doing and have done for years. And then if that doesn't pay off, I can see the frustration there, and I can only see it because I haven't experienced that. I can only empathize, if that's the right word, because I haven't experienced it. But that, like Clover's saying, is more than everybody else who pays $30 and tunes it out and goes back to worrying about their monster truck or the guitar or their what flavor of whiskey they're going to try this weekend. So the work is valued and appreciated by people who don't understand it and aren't aware of it. But that's just the nature of the things, right? Like it wouldn't be an uphill battle if everyone knew about it because it wouldn't be a battle. So I don't want to blow it off, but I can understand that that's a massive frustration. So what I'd like to offer is that there are for people out there that are thinking, oh, what can I add? What can I contribute to this whole thing? Well, think about the people that are doing whatever the grassroots advocacy is. There's um, Derek doing education for the youths in the Washington area. You got Faster in Ohio. You've got Tony Simon, our friend that we do the chat with, the Ask Gun Questions with on Saturdays, who does the diversity shoot. There's projects out there that you can help or empower or amplify. And then I was just thinking about when the legislation, when the ladies are going to offer testimony, occasionally the representatives will challenge or ask a question, or when you're there for your testimony, they'll consider you an expert, and they'll be doing something, and they'll come out of the blue and ask you a question. At least I've seen that happen before. Um, how different would it be if those ladies had an opportunity to, what's it called, like do dry runs or whatever it's called, where you've got a panel, let's say a live conversation is set up, and anybody who's planning on attending a thing for a testimonial can offer their testimony, get used to saying it, get the cadence down, just become familiar with the words, and then of course saying it on cue, in the 2 minutes or whatever you're allotted. But then let the people who are listening to you or helping you as an audience or a coach offer some feedback and give you questions that might come up or that they've seen people ask. And how different would that be, so that when people are going to offer their testimony and doing all that effort, they're not coming back and going, whatever, like, oh, next time I'm going to do this, because they've got, they just have a different angle going in. So there's that, and not to put that burden on the ladies that are doing it, but there's that opportunity for anybody that's out there. I'm going to keep saying this one. There's the potential of all the gun shops out there that support their local range or their local shooting teams or 4-H or scouts or politicians, and they'll often have signs up, being proud of that. Let them know that there's a DC Project representative at the local and national level that they could also support financially and with awareness and through support on socials, an intentional reposting campaign to make sure people are getting the word out into multiple newsletters and bulletin boards and stuff when that stuff's happening. Okay, Clover had to take off. He does something that he does here at the top of the hour. So, yeah, we could do a chat on specifically advocacy stuff. I'm not sure if everybody else would be bored, because not everybody's doing that stuff, or maybe I'm totally wrong.
I think that would be a good one to jot down. Just simply because I'm glad you said advocacy, right? Being an advocate. And I think there's a difference between being an advocate and being an activist. And I think that everybody in the, gun tuber firearm content creator space, I think there is room for them. And I think there's a certain amount of obligation even for them to be advocates, at least in certain ways on certain things at certain times. So I don't want to get too crazy off into it because this isn't a show, but I think it'd be a good one.
Okay. Jeff is saying he's available to anybody that wants to talk about anything, anything ever. I'm pretty sure that's what he's just saying. If you want to chat,
Yeah.
We'll give out his phone number. We'll give out his pager. You can fax him if you want.
Jeff has for many years been a big help to me, so and I am appreciative of it.
I mean, even if you're just bored and you just want to talk for hours, just chat about nothing.
Right.
Yeah. His phone number.
Yeah.
Defense Dad says, as far as burnout goes, I think it's different for everyone. For me, it's juggling one day off a week, trying to spend time with the kids and our kiddo, and trying to find time to film.
Yep.
Yeah, I can't give much advice to that one, but I'd say prioritize, right? Like that's where realistic, what can be done with hours a week versus days a week versus weeks out of the month, right? What about collaboration? Everybody's always trying to be everything. How come we don't see enough Voltrons? Like, I've only got a day out of the week. I've only got, 5 people that only have a day out of the week are one team that has daily coverage.
Yeah,
Or
I don't
no?
know. I think because you've got to be really careful with. It's the same as going into business with friends, or and whatever the case may be, and especially if you're going in, if you look at it from that angle, you're
Well,
going
but if
into
you're a
business.
restaurant owner and a something else owner and a something else owner, and then you have like your coupons on the restaurant thing, and then
Yeah,
the person at the other shop has the discount at the restaurant. So it's not like you're in business owning the restaurant together, but you're helping each other out, making customers of each other aware of the
it's
other
true.
opportunities, that kind of
It's
thing, I guess.
it's true, but we're also talking about content creation. So you're creating something. And then anytime that you're creating something like, okay, it's gonna it could breed animosity with, oh, who's putting in how much time, or who really owns what, or whatever the case may be. Is the do I hold more power in this collaboration because I came up with the idea, or do you hold more power because you did the editing, or does that guy hold the power because he did more filming, or I don't know. It doing it as a fun thing where you do your individual things, and everybody is able to share in that, is one thing. And do that as far as a channel structure goes, I don't know. I don't know how well that would end up working out.
All right, well, we're too far into the show, but I think we need more Voltrons. I don't know if we need to do a whole show on that. Put the
Maybe,
challenge
yeah.
out there. Then Santel says, I was more afraid of burning out, and I knew something had to give. I decided the podcast was the most expendable iron. He had it in the fire right now. So recently he stopped doing his
Yeah,
Get Off My Lawn podcast. Well, actually last week. And,
yeah.
now we're talking about burning out. So, having projects that span platforms and span or having a channel, or I call them projects because channel implies like your YouTube channel or something. But having something that's larger than uh, a podcast, or the video element of your content creation, or the traveling that you might have done or do. Um, in other words, ending a piece of it isn't the same. Is that the same as burning out? I mean, that's just the evolution of stuff. Like,
Right,
if we all had MySpace accounts at some point, we're all going to let go of those MySpace accounts. We didn't burn
right,
out. We just let go of our MySpace accounts.
right. Yeah, 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 yeah. Exactly.
Um, so then she fires. It said Airtable is. Have you heard of this one?
I have not.
Airtable. I haven't either. Is a free
Assuming
tool.
that's an Apple thing, maybe
I
not.
don't know what Kanban style means.
Yeah.
Allows me to note my ideas and then move the ideas to a script, film, and edit, and then posting schedule. So I guess some kind of scheduling tool for um, video creation, or maybe it's all content. But yeah, when you say Air like that, or when you said Mac, that made me think, yeah, Air is one of their phrases, huh? I'm going to have to get an Apple thing at some point. So if somebody wants to give me some advice on an Apple thing, I need to get something that's capable of going live. So I don't need anything fancy, and I certainly don't want to spend much money on it. But I need some kind of an Apple thing because I don't want to emulate it. Then he's saying about my analogies. I don't know. That's been my thing, I guess. I don't think of things. I try to think of things in another direction so I get the point across. As if it's too much, let me know. I don't know if he's saying it's too much of them. I can attempt to stop doing it, I suppose. Um, Defense Ed was saying the best part of the weekend was playing photographer for the event. Got to meet everyone, talk, and document the experience. Tons of ideas for videos.
Sometimes just being a fly on the wall helps.
Looks like we did something right. So thank you for that. Your camping gear is saying collaborations can be a good way to change up your pace and knock yourself out of a funk, but it can expose you to more drama. Yeah, but if you don't get exposed to drama, then you walk around thinking, with your head in the clouds, thinking everything's one way or the other. I think you need to kind of figure out what's going on every once in a while. And then you can get advice from folks before you just jump in too, right? You can ask around. We could probably do a whole show on collaboration potentially. But
Oh yeah.
there's smart ways of doing it, and then there's just jumping in and learning through trial and error, right?
Yeah, that collaboration I think, would be a good topic. There's a lot of different ways to collaborate, a lot of different things to be thinking about, pitfalls to avoid, and a lot of other stuff. So yeah, that could be a good one. Thanks, Jeff.
Let's see. I'm not seeing many likes on the GunTuber Academy stream. Throw them likes. So yeah, we've got two channels that we're streaming this to. At least when I know there's a topic ahead of time, I throw it on the GunTuber one also. But if I'm just doing this at the last minute, I usually don't just assume Clover wants it on his channel. But yeah, we appreciate the people that use the systems or interact with the systems. That's what engages the different logarithms and stuff, the mechanisms behind the scenes that make the things work or that make our channels more successful or whatever. Uh, oh, Snob is talking about that phone. He's going to send me a iPhone or whatever. Appreciate that. All right, we're at quarter after. I haven't gotten any kind of anybody saying anything about joining us, so we're just ending it.
Let's do it.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We do have a topic for next week,
And
which
we've got
is
several other topics as well for the upcoming weeks. So thanks for those.
I didn't write them down as the problem. I guess I could try to go back and grab them.
Yeah,
But
between
next
now and
week,
then it'll be easy. Yeah, yeah.
it sounds like it, but I don't put that much attention into this one that much during the month. I
Ad,
did last week, and I made everything up, and it was actually pretty nice because now we have
well,
this
one
one,
was
and then we have vertical content versus wait, vertical short content. Is that the future? That'll be next week. But
yeah,
yeah, I'll probably take a minute here if we're bullshitting, and I'll. I think it was content or
ad
collaboration was one, and then the other one will
collaboration
make
and
them up.
advocacy. Collaboration and advocacy is the two I remember.
Okay,
So
right on. So Chief Fires do a $20 super sticker. Thank you very much.
take care. Yep.
Snob is saying go a couple of extra hours.
Eh, I can't do that. I can't do that. She might be able to, but I can't.
Not right now. Nope. But yeah, we're gonna end this one. We'll be back next Tuesday for this show. But if everybody's there, we'll be on Saturday as well. Alluded to it earlier, but Tony Simon joins Clover and I on Saturdays, and we answer gun questions from our experience as being old dudes who've been around guns our whole lives in different ways, but in different parts of the countries and stuff, or different part of the country. But we're all longtime gun owners, and at least my experience, especially more and more, actually, it's even more and more. It hasn't slowed down at all. More and more gun owners, at least that I learn or I meet, are came to firearms late in life. They made the decision to buy firearms after living a life where they didn't even think about firearms or were not against firearms, but just didn't own them for sure. Didn't go hunting, didn't participate in any kind of shooting sports. So, we're trying to offer a perspective from people who've, I don't know, just been in a different situation. Anyway, that's what I've got on the agenda. Clover, what do you got coming up? Did you start your new season?
Nah, I'll start scheduling out the new podcast season probably in August. Already
Oh,
talked
okay.
with.
I'll quit asking you then. Okay, you got a while.
Yeah, yeah.
I know you got Clover and Ghost thing going on.
Yeah,
Little Wrist.
yeah. We did have that Sunday, so that's every other Sunday.
Is that just a sports podcast now? I tried to listen in and I couldn't figure out what you were doing talking about
And we
sports.
only did one sports topic. We did it's all pretty much random. Like nobody knows what's going to really happen until we're there. I get a topic, Ghost gets a topic, and then the audience, an audience member is selected for a topic. So three topics to show, and we did tools was the first one, and then Ghost brought up a sports one that was pretty engaging. The tools one was engaging too, and then our buddy HVS out there threw in bushcrafting, and so that was the third topic. So yeah, sometimes you get some firearm related stuff, sometimes you don't. Ghost is really big into the sports thing, so that being a part of his life, sports is going to come up pretty often, I'm sure. But hey, if you listen in, even if you don't follow sports, if you listen in, you might pick up something that could you could at least fool people into thinking you know sports around the water cooler or the gun shop or whatever it might be. So there is that benefit.
Yeah, it's just weird. I've been we were just talking about being longtime gun owners, and I've lived my whole life. Gun people have never been into sports, and now just in the last, I don't know, 3 or
Really?
4 years, there's people that talk about sports, and not very many of you,
Wow,
but a couple of you talk about sports. But oh
that's
yeah,
interesting.
99% of gun people I've ever known,
Oh my
way more
God.
even. Yeah.
Maybe it's Texas, right? It very well could be Texas, but like I've heard about football my entire life here, and to a lot of extent, not really because of Texas, but the small town that I grew up in. Um, the only sport played there was, and the school eventually was consolidated into a larger school, but the only sport played there was basketball. So football and basketball for sure was pretty huge. Um, in my life back in the day. Like I could care less nowadays. I don't
Well, there was no
follow
internet back in
obviously.
the day, and yeah, you had what was in front
Yeah.
of you to choose from, and
Yeah.
if that's 90% of what's in front of you, you got
Right.
yeah.
What was on the local channels, but you had Monday night football, that was about it. you know, Sunday and Monday night. But anyway, we're getting off topic.
Yeah, another topic. So again, thanks everybody for joining us, and you can catch us at those other dates and times. And G23 is heading to a doctor, so good luck with that.
Maybe he can jump in next week. He said he was needing to jump in, but he's got to go to the doctor. So I see Joe jumping in late out there with shooting gallery. So Joe probably needs to jump in at some point too. Just remember, we offer that every week. But
Shooting Gallery, New Florida. Is that how it
New
is now?
Florida, yeah, I guess so.
G23, unapologetically armed, was out there. She Fires also drop in the super sticker. Thank you guys for that. We've got swimming gear report. Does anybody need this many gear reports? And then we've got uh, there was a gear report, the original, a camping gear report, a guitar gear report, and is there another one in here?
No, there's more. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure there's like 7 or 8 of them.
Uh-huh. The gear report, and then
Like that one.
Chris was out there earlier at Sandhills saying, hey, Defense Dad, if I didn't already say Defense Dad, roll call, of course, with the solution for mosquitoes.
Yeah.
G23, Krabby Turtle. I didn't think I missed Krabby Turtle saying, hey, Ghost is out there. So there you go. Ghost is out there. And Snob. And if I'm missing anybody, it's the fault of the puppy.
Oh, there's the Humvee gear report chiming in. So there you go.
It's too many gear reports. I think that. Oh, Chris. Thanks again, Chris, for the super chat as well. He's out working. All right, with that, let's see ya. All right, you know what? I'm gonna throw a commercial up for the store. So I'm gonna throw a commercial up. So as I
Do it.
scroll down to
GearWebsites.com is your source for firearms-based playing cards and books. We also have mugs, shirts, and posters with designs that we've made live. Of course, we have patches. Every Friday is Free Patch Friday. We appreciate your support. Thank you for shopping at GearWebsites.com.